Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us at Carla 2020, our exciting second day. Just to make sure we are broadcasting. Yes, on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm one of the moderators and program consultants, and we've got a very packed day for you. I hope you're all ready, have had your coffee, and are ready to change the world with everybody else at Carla. First of all, thank you, Johanna Koljonen, for a marvelous Nostradamus report presentation this morning. If you missed that, you can go back and catch it on YouTube. Johanna is always brilliant. Nostradamus is one of the most interesting pieces of work I read every year, and only she could be that brilliant this early in the morning. So thank you, Johanna, for kicking us off with that. A lot to think about. And today I'm introducing the first block. So you might have noticed that the rest of today's program is mostly organized into blocks of themed content. So this is block one. The 4 blocks today are basically about intersectionality, movements and activism, power and decolonialism, and also why we need a multitude of voices, a multitude of gazes, including from the queer and trans communities. So we're starting off with this block called It's Not You, It's the System, which we all know, it's not our fault. We're really gonna delve into some intersectional perspectives. The aim is to dismantle, unpack, rethink, to look at the complexity of oppression in the current systems and start to fight those injustices. We have to understand them first. So as I've heard Emilia Roig say before, some of you might be saying intersectionality. I've heard the word, but I don't quite know what it means. She will say it best, but it's about tackling inequalities within inequalities and making marginalized groups and minorities visible within larger subgroups. So we've got some amazing speakers in this block. And of course, when you're talking about intersectionality, you really shouldn't do that without Emilia Roig, who is the founder and executive director of the Center for Intersectional Justice. She is based in Berlin. She has a keynote talk for us this morning. So I think with no further ado from me, we should listen to Emilia and what she has to say. I think, let's see, the title of her talk, Why Intersectionality is Not a Luxury. So over to you, Emilia.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be giving the keynote today for this very important event. I wish I could have been there, not in person because it's an online event, but at least live with you. Unfortunately, I had a family emergency, and so that's why I recorded the keynote before coming. And I hope to be available for a Q&A by phone. Yeah, let's try if it works, but at least I will send this. So first of all, I wanted to say how grateful I am that such a conference is taking place. And also, before I start with telling you what exactly intersectionality is about and why it's so relevant for the film industry, I want to start by saying that the film industry so far has played a very important role in maintaining hierarchies between people and in maintaining stereotypes. So it sounds like a negative thing to say, but it's the film industry and it's all the movies that we take on from a very early age that describe what beauty is, that describe what success is, that describe the models of life that are the desirable modes of life, that also set the tone basically for our societal norms. So with this comes a very high responsibility, and it's been done as well because, you know, the film industry has not been at all diverse as it should be. And it means that a single perspective has been projected onto us for very long now. And things are changing. I think mostly with series and with opening up to the new generation as well. We see that there's a lot of programs that are breaking the rules and that are breaking the norms, films that are that wouldn't have been thinkable maybe 10 to 15 years ago. So that's very positive, because with the fact that the film industry so far has played such a tremendous role in propaging roles, hierarchies, and as a way of consequence as well, oppression and discrimination, it has tremendous power because it can change this through films and through the cinema, through the film industry and through cinema and films and series and TV generally. It gives us the possibility to redefine norms, um, to redefine the societal norms in which we're embedded as people. And why is it important to have an intersectional approach to it? Simply because it can broaden it can broaden the wide range of people that can be attained through the film industry. So I'm going to give you an example. So first of all, I'm going to give a quick definition of what intersectionality is. Intersectionality is at the same time a theory, a tool, an approach, a perspective, and a movement that can help make visible people who so far have disappeared in so-called single-axis movements and single-axis movements. So an example would be um, invisibilizing women wearing the headscarf, as an example, in the category women, or people with disabilities within the LGBTQI movement who also have been erased and disappeared in a sense, or invisibilized, which has created double exclusions for people who have multiple identities. So for people who are not the archetype of a group, for example, a white middle class heterosexual woman would represent the archetype of what we understand as women. And when we have programs that are meant to increase the representation of women, then generally these are the types of women that are going to be at the forefront. And intersectionality helps us combat discrimination within discrimination, tackle inequalities within inequalities, and render minorities visible within minorities, and also not only rendering them visible, but also empowering them and protecting them. And so, how does that work concretely? Well, we can see that as an example, if you would have quotas implemented for women in the film industry, for films, let's say, then what we would see with a lack of intersectional approach is that mostly white women of a middle class background, heterosexual women would be featured in films, and the roles would also very likely also embrace the normative image that we have of society. So they would be mothers, or they would be spouses as well. They would most likely as well not uh, be embracing, or at least representing, roles that are going against this representation of the typical woman, which is mainly patriarchal. And if we can apply an intersectional lens to it, or have an intersectional perspective, then we can make sure that the category women, in that sense, embraces the large diversity of people who also are in this category but tend to be erased. It means that we could have Black women, Muslim women, queer women, trans women. We could have women with disabilities, women from the global south, from the global north, from all over the place, and at least, and also very importantly as well, who play roles, or who tell stories that go against the dominant narrative of what a woman should be. And why is it important? It means that if we challenge stereotypes, and if we challenge the main narrative of what people need to be according to the matrix, that's what I like to call it, basically the story that has been told to us ever since we were born about what the world is about. And so if we want to disrupt the matrix, in a sense, and if we want to disrupt these norms, which are very narrow, they are narrow, and they're negative for everybody. It means that even if men benefit from patriarchy, being being caught in roles that are so rigid is something that prevents creativity, that prevents the expression of our entire being, and ultimately something that trumps the possibilities of the world has with the vast majority of people who are kept in roles that do not really fit what their souls are about. So this is why everybody could win from the dismantlement of all oppressions, including racism, patriarchy, and also their byproducts such as homophobia, ableism, and transphobia, and also classism. So in order to dismantle systems of oppression, it is important to adopt an intersectional lens because we can reach so much more than if we would use a single axis. Single axis being the opposite of an intersectional approach. So, for example, I want to give an example that the Combahee River Collective. The Combahee River Collective is a group of feminist Black lesbians in the United States who wrote a statement in 1997. And I think it was the birth of, the birth of intersectionality can be traced back to the 18th century with the abolition of slavery. And even after that, there has been as well like a lot of occurrences of trying to show the Black experience within feminism. So meaning that Black women have felt that they were erased from mainstream feminist discourses that were mainly dominated by white women. And so coming back to the quote of the Combahee River Collective, basically what they say is that if the liberation of Black women would mean the liberation of everyone, because it would presuppose that liberating Black women would mean that we liberate themselves, we liberate them, or at least we dismantle patriarchy and racism and capitalist oppression and classism in a sense for them. So said differently, if we manage to tackle or at least make sure that the people who are the most marginalized in society, if we make sure that their rights are respected, that they have access to political, economic, and cultural power, if we can ensure that they are not stereotyped and that they have the privilege of individuality, meaning that they can represent who they are without having to be associated with stereotypes that are mostly, of course, negative and oppressive, then we can make sure that we reach everyone. And that's, I think, my favorite quote by Kimberly Crenshaw, who said, a truly intersectional feminism is a feminism which can reach everyone on the planet. It means that, and I, again, use this hyperbole, that if we have a disabled, Black, Muslim, trans woman, for example, and if we can make sure that this person feels safe, empowered, and free in our society, then we can be sure that it will be the case for all people with disabilities, for all women, for all LGBTQI people, for all poor people, for all people who she is a representative of. And so instead of tackling just one angle, be it gender or patriarchy, then we can make sure that we dismantle oppressions in their entirety. And this is ultimately what intersectionality is about. And if we can apply an intersectional lens, an intersectional perspective to the film industry, be it in the representation, in roles, in films, and in narratives, in stories that are told, but also in power, meaning who has the money, who decides what films get produced, who has the last word, basically, who has the power in the film industry. If we can make sure that we apply an intersectional lens to it, then it could look very differently from now on. And I know that all of you who are here are interested in making the film industry a fairer industry, to make sure that voices are heard, to make sure that power is redistributed, and that it's not a monopoly in the hands of a few people who continue to impose their vision of the world onto the rest of us. So that's very powerful. And I really hope that you have a very successful conference. And I hope as well that I can be wired in as well for the Q&A, even though it depends on technical issues. And but if not, then I wish you a very fruitful rest of the conference, and I was very honored to be here today. Thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah, that's why she is the world leading expert on intersectionality. Just amazing thoughts from Emilia Roig there. Thank you so much to Emilia for taking the time to be part of Carla 2020. As she warned, unfortunately, a Q&A is not possible right now. Very sorry about that. Anybody hoping to get a question into her. But what a lot to unpick from what she just said. And, you know, the way she speaks about it, it's almost like there's hope. We can do this. This is a thing that can happen. We get away from the single axis. So I do hope that that is our future. And thank you so much to Emilia. Once again, you can check out her work at the Center for Intersectional Justice.